Stonehenge, England. Here, on the Salisbury Plain in the county of Wiltshire, stands the most sophisticated prehistoric stone circle in the world. According to radiocarbon dating, this striking arrangement of monoliths was placed on this wide plain in southern England more than 4,000 years ago. Consisting of more than 100 stone blocks, the monoliths create a larger structure known as a megalith.
There is a period in time, several thousand years ago, which is known as the megalithic time. And it is defined by the fact that our ancestors, pretty much in every part of civilization, began to build with gigantic stones.
These cultures, which were known as megalithic cultures, are something of a mystery to us. We have to ask ourselves why, all of a sudden virtually, human beings across a broad stretch of Europe and Asia suddenly started to prize large pieces of rock free, drag them around the landscape, and then piling them up in very exotic and unusual ways.
Stonehenge, the world's most famous megalithic structure, derives its name from the material used to construct it, and also from the term henge, which refers to a circular or oval-shaped bank that surrounds a central flat area.
Stonehenge, it's just 25% of the original monument. 75% has been destroyed forever. Originally, they had 60 huge blocks that formed a perfect circle. The question is, who was able to move them and what was the purpose?
Although the specific origin of the site has eluded researchers for centuries, the physical construction of Stonehenge is believed to have taken place in different stages over a period of several thousands of years.
It's now believed the very first part of Stonehenge is 3 great wooden post holes, which are now in the car park, and there's blobs of paint on them. These are dated to at least 10,000 years old. The next phase of construction of Stonehenge was around 3,200 to 3,400 BC, where they built the Great Earthen Henge, and there was just a couple of stones there. Then a few hundred years later, they brought in the blue stones, and these are the ones that were brought over 100 miles away from the Preseli Mountains in Wales. The major monoliths there, the Great Sarsen stones, they were brought from much closer, about 20 miles away, but some of them weigh up to 50 tons.
Multi-ton stones being carved from the landscape and transported distances of up to 100 miles. Is it really possible that a prehistoric people could accomplish such an enormous and seemingly impossible task?
The theories really range from they either used rollers and tree trunks, which is kind of unlikely when you look at some of the terrain they would have had to go through.
There have been teams of Brits who have tried to recapitulate these things. How did they get them across the rivers between Wales and Stonehenge? How did they go up and down through valleys and over hills?
One explanation associated with Stonehenge dates back to the Arthurian legend. And the legend says that the stones at Stonehenge were brought from Ireland by Merlin, who was King Arthur's magician.
Merlin was said to transport the stones by levitating them and pushing them along, just with his bare hands, all the way across the landscape from Wales to Stonehenge.
The great 20th century French philosopher and historian Jean Markel wrote over 40 books on the life of Merlin and Arthur and the Celtic traditions. And Markel was adamant that Merlin was a real person. He was also adamant that Merlin was an incredibly powerful, otherworldly being who was here to teach us to move beyond the human restrictions and boundaries.
Palmar Sur, Costa Rica. While clearing the jungles in the 1930s, crews discover hundreds of monolithic stone spheres.
Many of them are huge. I mean, they're 10 feet in diameter. They're gigantically huge. Others are much smaller, the size of a basketball or of a car tire or something like that.
To date, over 300 stone spheres have been found at archaeological sites across the region. And Las Bolas, as they are called, are some of the most precise stone carvings in the ancient world. Some experts believe these mysterious stone balls could be 96% completely spherical.
A perfectly spherical, round ball is hard to make. And in fact, where they're found is a primitive area. So the stone balls that we see at Costa Rica would have been very, very hard to make by just bashing them out with a rock.
We can only imagine how they may have been able to make such perfect spheres. These spheres are carved out of granites and granodiorites. These are very hard, igneous rocks, difficult to work.
Granodiorite is one of the hardest natural materials. It never comes free in nature in the shape of the sphere. So obviously somebody shaped them. Today we would need to use diamond tools and laser to shape the spheres.
It almost seems like there was some kind of megalithic carving school who could create the most perfect sphere. Some of them are still hidden within the jungles. So what were they doing there? I mean, why were they constructed?
Jungle-dwelling local chiefs were sometimes buried with some of the smaller balls. But some of the balls are gigantically huge. I mean, in fact, they're so large, they couldn't fit in any grave. So the great mystery with the stone balls really is what their purpose was.
According to the legends of Costa Rica, those stone spheres were used as cannonballs by the god of thunder to drive away the god of wind and hurricanes. Now, these are all wonderful ideas of a story, but as we all know, every story has a core of truth, and the question is, what is that core?
Are the legends of gods battling storms really a description of ancient astronaut machinery at work, as some researchers suggest? And if so, might the discovery of stone spheres reveal the ultimate purpose for monoliths? Bosnia-Herzegovina, 2004. A team of archaeologists discovers stone spheres in forests and creek beds near the town of Banja Luka.
If you go into that area, it's a ravine in a mountainside that's been cut by a stream, and in it are all of these stone balls. Very similar to the ones in Costa Rica. They're half buried in this mountainside, and some are exposed. It is a tourist area, and in fact, Bosnia has 4 or 5 areas where these stone balls can be seen.
The tree was standing there. So with the last storm, the tree fell, and all this, dirt, all this material covered the stone sphere, which is here, right here. The biggest source of Bosnian stone spheres is the central Bosnian town of Zavidovići. We took samples from 4 different stone spheres and samples of natural stone that we found nearby. And then we did chemical analysis. So the conclusion was those stone spheres were made from the liquid state. They would melt them. They were adding certain additives to get the better properties of material. And then when they got dry in certain molds, they were getting a perfect shape of the sphere.
Like most other monoliths, researchers believe the spheres were likely used for ceremonial rituals. But is it possible that these monoliths, like the stone spheres in Costa Rica, helped create a connection to celestial beings, as ancient astronaut theorists contend?
Another theory of the stone balls is that they were somehow used as star maps, and that they were rolled around, and they would show where stars were and their relationship to other areas. Very much like some extraterrestrial map.
It's also said that these stone balls were there to concentrate thought, that they were somehow physical devices, that somehow by touching or working with these stones, we were able to establish a bridge to another dimension.
Homestead, Florida, 30 miles south of Miami. This former agricultural town is home to one of the most mysterious structures in North America. A stone garden made of sculpted blocks of ancient coral, some weighing 30 tons. It's called the Coral Castle. Spread over several acres, the complex formations and intricate designs of the stone walls and sculptures marvel tourists. But unlike other great structures around the world, this site is not ancient.
Coral Castle in Florida is often said to be the only modern megalithic structure ever built.
In 1923, Ed Leedskalnin, a Latvian immigrant, began building what he originally called Rockgate Park. But believe it or not, Leedskalnin insisted that he was not using modern machinery to build the impressive structure. He also claimed that he was working alone.
Well, Ed was a hermit, and Ed was a loner, and he was a foreigner, and he was a recluse and a scientist.
He was in love with a woman, and he wanted to build this facility in memory of her, and he waited for her to come from Europe. And he waited, and he waited, and she never did. But the big question is how did this frail little man move these thousands of pounds of block by himself?
Barely over 5 feet tall and weighing just 100 pounds, Leedskalnin is said to have carved, moved, and hoisted huge multi-ton stones using only a makeshift tripod.
He has a tripod, 3 pieces of Florida pine, and he's got some chains, and he's now going to lift 30 tons, 10 tons of rock. Can't be done. No one could do that.
He would work at night. He wouldn't let anybody watch him. And he said that he knew the secrets of the pyramids.
But what exactly was Leedskalnin referring to? Had he rediscovered the same advanced technology used to build megalithic structures like Karnak and Sacsayhuaman?
Ed, over and over again, would tell people that he knew the secrets that helped the Egyptians build the pyramids. What was he talking about? Why was he constantly harking back to the Egyptians? We don't know.
Leedskalnin continued work on the Coral Castle until his death in 1951. In the journals he left behind, the builder explained that he had discovered the ancient secret of transforming stones into weightless objects.
Ed says this in his pamphlet, Magnetic Current, that real gravity is actually real magnets. So if you reverse the magnet force with a force of some kind of electromagnetic, radio perhaps, frequency, you can then make these rocks not as heavy as they seem otherwise, and therefore you can lift them.
But if Leedskalnin had developed a device that could modify gravity, what was his secret? Some suggest the answer lies in a mysterious black box that can be seen in various photographs. A box that has since disappeared.
The black box sitting on top is the element that no one has ever seen except in those pictures, and no one has today. We believe that black box has something to do with how he got these massive, heavy, brittle pieces of rock up in the air in a way that no one can duplicate.
He had some kind of magnetic machine down in one of his other house areas that has since been dismantled, but it had a revolving ability. He may have been having that thing spin. The whole place could have been anti-gravity. Probably just pushed these into place.
The island of Malta, 2022. While investigating local legends that a race of giant extraterrestrial beings once inhabited this area more than 5,000 years ago.
We're here. We're here again. We made it. Again, yes.
Giorgio Tsoukalos meets with his longtime friend, Eric von Daniken, author of the 1968 international bestseller, Chariots of the Gods, which established the foundation for the ancient astronaut theory. They have arranged to visit one of the most mysterious sites on the islands, called Hajarim, which archaeologists believe might be Malta's second oldest megalithic structure, built shortly after Gigantia.
Hajar-Kim is a Maltese temple complex that has multiple temples on it as well. The oldest one, in the northern temple, dates to the mid-4th millennium BC.
You see colossal, huge stones, huge walls and doorways, and it's clear that it's very, very old. It's something that it would be almost indestructible. And in fact, it's been there for thousands of years.
Located near Malta's southern shores, the temples of Hajarim are believed by mainstream archaeologists to have been constructed by the same primitive culture who created the temples of Gigantia on the neighboring island of Gozo.
Good morning, gentlemen.
How are you? Pleasure.
Thank you.
Eric von Daniken.
Joining Giorgio once again is local historian Frans van Avendonk.
Incredible. Look at this.
Yes.
So, what are we talking about here? How tall is it?
About 6 meters.
Wow. So that's about 17, 18 feet, yeah?
Something like that. Maybe it was even bigger because of erosion. It could have been a bit higher, and it surely had a roof.
I mean, just incredible.
Now, whether it was a stone roof or a wooden roof, there is still discussion about it. But it was covered, and the whole wall must have reached at least this height.
And the whole temple is orientated astronomically.
Yeah, so at the sunrise on the winter solstice, and you would be here at the back, you would see the sun coming up over the horizon through the entrance. And if you are patient and you stay here till the evening, you'll see over there another temple, which will have a light phenomena during the sunset of the same day.
It's all oriented as so. It had to do something with the stars, with the universe, definitely.
This must have been a very important building for them, and that's why they put so much effort in creating the building.
Mainstream historians continue to debate what purpose the temples at Hajarim might have served. But a recent discovery has led some to suggest that the site has an otherworldly connection.
And this is known as the Oracle Room. And the room has something special. Look at the oval inside. There is a very strong magnetic field inside that oval. It's believed that women went in there and they would have certain experiences, hear sounds, see flashes. It was contact with the gods.
The so-called Oracle Chamber is believed to have been used thousands of years ago as a place where worshippers communicated with their goddesses. And it is here that a statue was discovered which is believed to represent one of those deities.
In this room, behind the partition, they found a number of statues. Among them, the famous Venus of Malta, which is a statue of the goddess.